Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Collards and Cauldrons by Bella Falls, narrated by Johanna Parker. Chapter 1. I might be a little biased, but I would swear to anybody the pretty baby in front of me must be the cutest in the entire world. Stroking her hair, I stared back at her big eyes looking up at me. Even if time stopped, I would always care for and love this little one. "Who's a pretty girl? You are," I crooned, my fingers scratching the crown of her head and around the base of the diminutive bump of a horn. With my other hand, I held out a carrot. The tiny unicorn took the treat with a gentle tug of her teeth and gnawed on it. TJ snickered as she finished her examination. With a grunt, she stood up from her crouched position and slung her stethoscope around her neck. "You're spoiling her," my sister-in-law accused, her hands palpating down the small creature's body. "Of course I am. Who wouldn't? It's a freaking baby unicorn!" My voice came out high and squeaky, like the ecstatic little girl I was inside. "I wonder where her mama is." TJ blew out a breath and rubbed her already shrunken tummy. "I don't know, and this one seems to be doing fine on her own, although I'm glad we've already got a mare with a colt here. If we have to, we can set up kind of a foster mom for, what did we decide to call her?" The young unicorn nudged my hand, sniffing it and searching for another treat. I scratched her muzzle instead. "We haven't. I kind of felt like since she appeared on the same day you had Charlie Jr., that my niece and goddaughter should have a say." TJ sighed. "I told you we gave her the middle name Charlotte, only because after you called her Junior so many times, we couldn't not give her your name. But her first name is still Raylene. My mother's name. Every time I heard it, my heart got pulled in two, half a little sad at her absence and inability to hold her first granddaughter, and half pleased that we now had our own new ray of sunshine in the family." "I know," I gave in, "but she'll always be Junior to me. And she'll always look up to her Auntie Charlie." TJ stepped aside so the unicorn could lie down to nap. She closed the wooden gate to the pen and joined me in staring at the tiny miracle. "Tracy Joe, we've got a real-live unicorn living here," I exhaled in wonder. TJ nodded. "I know, but I think if we wait until Raylene is old enough to speak, this little one will go nameless far too long. What did one name a unicorn when, up until the night of my niece's birth, I thought they were a pleasant myth? We had a legendary creature living in the old barn on my property with the other horses. Names were too important to take the task of giving one lightly." "Are y'all still staring at the poor thing? Why don't you leave it alone, Birdie?" My brother's voice cut through our reverent silence. "Because she's cute," I countered, slapping Matt's arm with the back of my hand without taking my eyes off the tired baby. My brother playfully smacked me back without hesitation. "You'd think you'd be paying more attention to your niece." "I pay plenty attention to Junior," I replied, using my nickname to rile up my brother. "Speaking of, if you're both in here, then who has Raylene?" Matt ignored my question, caught up in marveling at the unicorn. When I repeated my inquiry, it takes a nudge of my shoulder for him to respond. What? Oh, Bo's watching over her. You know, for an old vampire, he's pretty adept at being a babysitter. We might have to call on his services if I'm ever going to have a chance at alone time with my wife." "Hey, you aren't your baby's main source of food. I can't be away from Raylene too long. I should go back to the house." TJ's words trailed off when the little unicorn rustled in her straw bed and twitched her iridescent tail. "I should also call Carol Whitaker and make sure I'm doing everything right by this little one." At the mention of one of the Red Ridge sisters, my stomach flipped. Even after 2 months, my goodbye to Dash still affected me. Although I could call him any time using my spell phone, I wanted to give him space. Oh, who was I kidding? I needed the space out of fear of so many things. With everything going on in Honeysuckle, from the grand entrance of my niece and a baby unicorn To my attempts to reconnect with Mason, I didn't need a reason to run to a man who was still engaged, thanks to a blood pact he'd made.
"Bo told me I'd find you out here."
The detective's voice echoed off the wooden walls of the barn and bounced off my heart. The sunlight beaming through the barn's entrance silhouetted his athletic frame. My stomach flipped again for a whole different reason, and I gripped the wooden gate and focused my eyes on the unicorn instead of the man who used to love me. But Mason no longer possessed the memories of those feelings. I'd heard from Nana that Rita Ryder had died from complications of cancer while in warden custody. After everything she'd done, including ripping the memories of me from Mason's mind, I knew not one person walking this earth would hold a parting party for that nasty witch. Mason clapped Matt on the back in a manly greeting and smiled at TJ. I received a curt dip of his chin, while his eyes darted away from mine. The detective cleared his throat and glanced down at the stall floor.
"Wow, I still can't believe what I'm seeing, even though I'm looking right at it. A real live unicorn."
He whistled low. "I guess when something's in front of you, it's easier to believe." I winced from the unintended sharpness of my words. She's living proof that miracles can happen. While a unicorn living in my barn was beyond amazing, if I could have any wish come true, I'd want to rewind time and stop Rita a few seconds earlier. Stop her from stripping me out of Mason's mind. Cling to whatever had been blooming between Mason and me with everything I had in me. But none of what happened was his fault. Being mad at him all the time because of the changes in our relationship didn't help. TJ stepped away from the stall. "I should be getting back to Raylene since I'm providing her lunch. Come on, Daddy." I scrunched my nose. "Ew, could you not call him that in front of me? It's weird."
"But I am one now,"
Matt protested. "And if your wife wants to call you that in private, that's y'all's business." I curled my upper lip for emphasis. Mason chuckled, and it warmed my heart, melting away a little of my icy anger directed at him. I wished with all my might I could do something else to earn that sound again. My brother pushed away from the stall, oblivious to the joke.
"We've got a bet going as to whether or not Raylene will say Mommy or Daddy first, so we've gotten into the habit of calling each other by those names."
"And yet, I don't see hide nor hair of your blessed daughter here." With dramatic emphasis, I strained to look for their baby. My brother pinched me under my arm, making me squeal.
"You're such a brat. Come on, Mommy. Let's go feed our daughter."
Dread built in my gut. They wouldn't leave me alone with Mason, would they? "You say that like you have any part to play in the process," my sister-in-law teased with a little exasperation. She patted me on the shoulder and gave me a look that conveyed her silent question if I'd be okay. Chewing on my lip, I glanced at Mason, who leaned over the gate, staring at the unicorn. In the past couple of months, I'd attempted to reconnect with the detective in small ways, meeting him for coffee at the Harvest Moon Cafe with our mutual friends, joining everyone for a picnic under the founder's tree. Too afraid to be alone with him, I'd always made sure others were around in case he felt uncomfortable. Or maybe I was placating my own discomfort. I gave a quick nod of reassurance to my sister-in-law and watched my brother and her playfully bicker on their way back to my house. One of the horses snorted and shuffled around in its stall. Birds nesting in the roof tittered and flew around the beams, their wings flapping rapid beats. The head of my orange kitty, Peaches, popped up from between a few bales of hay. She hopped up on one of them, yawning and stretching. With a little chirping purr, she bounced down from her perch and trotted over to me. Her little fuzzy head rubbed against my leg, and then the detective's. I reached down and plucked her up. "What have you been doing out here, Peachy Poo? Are you keeping the mice away from our newest tenant?" Scratching her behind the ears earned me a strong, rumbling purr.
"I'll bet she's good at mousing."
Mason's deep voice reverberated right through me. "She's tiny but fierce. I'm pretty sure she could take on a dragon and win. If not by her claws and fangs, then by her sheer cuteness." "Isn't that right, Princess Peach's yum-yum fuzzy pants?" I buried my face into her fur to avoid looking at the detective.
Such a big name for such a little thing.
He reached out to pet my cat, but waited for me to give him permission. I took a step closer so he could reach her, and his fingers stroked the fur on her head. She closed her eyes in enjoyment, and for a brief moment, tendrils of jealousy gripped me. Mason didn't follow up with anything else, and only the typical barn noises interrupted our awkward silence. He stopped petting my cat when she squirmed in my arms to be let down. With regret, I let go of my one buffer between the detective and me. Peaches bounded away after some tiny prey, and I leaned on the wooden gate again. My body hummed with the close proximity of Mason's presence.
So,
he started and stopped, rubbing the back of his neck. For some reason, his similar discomfort put me at ease. So, I exhaled with a slight smile. He opened and closed his mouth a couple of times, still unable to look me in the eye. With a slight gesture of his hand, he waved at the sleeping baby in front of us.
So, unicorn. Pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yep. My brain shuffled around the options of what I could say next, but everything seemed too trivial. The harder I tried, the dumber my ideas got. Mason blew out a long breath and clasped his hands together.
Listen, Charlie, I know things between us are
tense. I offered up the truth because we both deserved that. He snorted.
Yeah, and I know you've been mad at me because I haven't called you or really talked to you one-on-one until now.
My eyes jerked to his. I'm not mad. I recognized the lie once it left my mouth. He finally met my gaze, and the sadness pooling in his eyes crushed me.
I might not know you as well as you know me yet, but remember, I'm a detective. It's my job to read people. You've been angry at me for a while now.
He held up his hand to stop my protest.
And you have good reasons. I understand we used to have something between us. A lot of people have told me, and I swear, I've been trying my hardest to remember.
I glanced down, willing the tears burning in my eyes not to drop. I know you're working hard, and it's not fair for me to expect too much from you. His warm hand covered mine.
You've been great, actually. You haven't pushed me. You always make sure I've got friendly backup in case I'm uncomfortable. I can tell you're a special person.
He squeezed once and let me go.
But if you're waiting for me to regain my feelings for you, I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed.
The absence of his touch burned, and I reached out to regain the physical connection, grasping his hand in mine. You couldn't disappoint me. I stepped closer and willed him to believe me. Mason responded with a light brush of his thumb over my skin.
I can't undo what's been done. Even with the help of some of the strongest psychics we both know, they can't return what's not there. And I know that hurts you, which is the last thing I want to do to you, Charlie.
His voice ended on a strained rasp. He was ending things between us, closing the door on my efforts to return us to where we'd been. Dash had said I could save Mason. Looked like I was going to fail in my mission. I understand, I muttered, letting go of his hand. I'll leave you alone. I hope you have a good life, Mason. In utter despair, I turned to walk away from him.
Stop. That's not what I meant.
My feet refused to obey his command, although I slowed my pace. What else is there for us?
It doesn't have to be the end of us. Why can't it be a new beginning?
He called out after me. I continued to trudge away, but with shorter steps. I don't know what that means.
How about you not leave and stay here to finish our conversation?
Mason rushed forward and grasped both of my shoulders, stopping me and twisting my body around to face him.
For goodness sakes, stop being so stubborn, woman. It's just so...
I couldn't keep the corner of my mouth from curling up, but I did stop myself from mentioning how that had always been the way between us. Fine, I'm listening. I crossed my arms, digging my fingernails into the palms of my hands to distract myself from the heightened awareness of his softened touch still on my shoulders. The detective glanced down as he held on to me, his brow furrowed, but whatever thought frustrated him, he dismissed it and let me go.
I think we need to give up on trying to recover the past and see what we can do about the present. In other words, let's start over. I'm Mason.
He stuck out his hand to shake mine. It was an ending, at least to my attempts to fix what Rita had managed to destroy. A part of me would always mourn what we had before, but maybe there could be hope for us if we left the past behind like he suggested. I accepted his offer to shake on a new start. Charli Goodwin, stubborn witch. Mason chuckled and pumped his hand up and down.
I should say it's nice to meet you, but I think we're a little beyond basic greetings.
You think? My snark earned a genuine smile, and I internally high-fived myself.
I can tell you're gonna be an interesting friend to get to know better,
the detective admitted. Friend, I breathed out. I guess I can live with that. Plus, Alice and Kate did pair us up in her wedding party. Mason snorted.
Yeah, all your friends seem to conspire to keep us together.
He bumped my shoulder with his. I nudged him back, ignoring the skipped beat of my heart. It doesn't have to mean anything more than you escorting me down the aisle. I mean, after Allie, Kate, and Lee get married, not that we'd be getting hitched or anything. Pixie poop. Clamping a hand over my mouth, I squeezed my eyes shut in an attempt to ignore the awkwardness. Mason's hearty laugh interrupted my horror. He took my hand in his again, giving me the courage to stop internally cursing my tongue. A slow smile crept across my face, and I joined him with hopeful chuckles.
It'll be my pleasure to be the one to escort you.
He squeezed me once again and let me go. I flexed my fingers at the absence of his touch. Movement from the little unicorn's stall interrupted our moment, and we approached the tiny beast quietly. The creature snorted and blinked her sleepy eyes. Spotting the two of us, she rose on her forelegs and shook her body from mane to tail. She approached with careful steps and stuck her head out close enough for us to touch. Mason and I scratched her wherever she demanded, our fingers bumping into each other.
Who knows, the detective said with a grin. If miracles like this little one exist, then there might be hope for us yet.
Chapter 2. The sun shone bright the morning after Allison, Kate, and Lee's wedding. I should be at the day after wedding brunch being thrown by Blythe at the Wilkinses' house by the water, watching the newlyweds open their gifts. Instead, my impatient behind occupied one of the chairs on my porch while I listened to the creak of the wood underneath me while rocking my sleepy niece back and forth. It was a great wedding, I spoke in a whisper. The bride wore a beautiful gown that made her look like a modern-day princess. The groom was at a loss for words for the first time in his life. Raylene blinked her eyes as if she understood. I ran a finger down her downy, soft cheek. After they were married, we ate some good food and danced up a storm. You know who's a really good dancer? Your daddy. That's because our daddy, your grandpa, taught him. I didn't stop the moisture gathering in my eyelashes. Dad said a man should know how, so he can surprise his woman at any time, and they can dance through life together. My mom, your grandma and namesake, love to dance. A tear rolled down my cheek at the memories of random moments Dad would hum a tune off key, grab Mom, and swing her around the floor until she lost her breath, giggling. The baby grabbed onto my finger with her tiny digits and squeezed, bringing me back to the here and now. I lifted her up and kissed her bald head, breathing in her signature sweet smell. You come from a long line of love, sunshine. Speaking of men who could dance, someone had spent some time teaching Mason a step or two as well. Although we were paired together in the wedding party, we'd been distantly polite and friendly for the entire event. When it came time for the bridal party to join the new husband and wife on the dance floor, I expected a basic sway to the music. Instead, Mason had taken control, leading me around the floor with masterful ease, not allowing me to trip or fall at any moment. I told him it wasn't fair for us to outshine the newlyweds. My body hummed to life on the porch, remembering the words he'd whispered into my ear.
They'll have the rest of their lives to shine. This moment belongs to us.
For a brief second in the universe, nothing else had existed, and hope settled again in my chest. But when the music stopped, our bubble popped, and the polite awkwardness from before returned. Raylene squirmed in my arms and squeaked in displeasure, mimicking my own mood. I don't know what will happen to us either, sweet girl. I picked up the binky that had fallen out of her mouth and replaced it. Before we settled back into our rocking rhythm, my fuzzy orange kitty jumped up on the arm of the chair and stared at the invader of her lap space. I'm sorry, Peachy Poo. Your spot is currently taken. You're gonna have to learn to share. With my arms full, I couldn't even scratch her little head. Nonplussed, Peaches sniffed around the bundle of baby. Satisfied for the moment, she stretched, digging her tiny claws into the flesh of my arm for good measure, and jumped to the rocking chair next to us. After turning a couple of times, she settled down to enjoy the warmth of the day and fulfill her role as my silent companion. Voices floated across the field, and my heart rate quickened. I spotted Carol Whitaker walking with TJ after checking out our newest magical resident. The questions I'd wanted to ask her when she first arrived bubbled to the surface again, and I longed to run out there to confront her. But Raylene fussed when I fidgeted, so I forced myself to stay put and wait. All three Whitaker sisters had accepted Alice and Kate's insistent invites to attend, but they'd kept a polite distance and stuck to the edge of the party all night. Since my job as bridesmaid had to come first, I didn't get a chance to ask them anything. The two professional animal healers walked toward me, deep in discussion about special care for the unique creature.
Promise me you'll keep me posted with any changes or observations,
the eldest Whitaker sister insisted.
And thanks for the rare opportunity to see her.
My sister-in-law patted Carol on the shoulder.
I appreciate your insight on how to try and care for a being we all thought was mythical.
Although I've heard you've worked with a hippogriff before. Carol's steps faltered, and her face hardened in surprise.
Any stories you heard might have been greatly exaggerated. Besides, I told everyone involved to keep it quiet. If word gets out you're harboring creatures that might be legendary, you could end up fighting off undesirables, if you get my meaning.
That's a good point, agreed TJ, rubbing her shrunken belly out of habit. I might have to remind all of Honeysuckle to keep their mouths shut about our one-horned miracle. Carol rubbed the back of her neck.
She may be young and still so small, but the magic inside her is astounding. It will be far more difficult for you to contain the secret when she comes of age. That much power roaming the earth freely will attract attention.
You can sense that in her? TJ failed to hide her apprehensive awe, walking up the porch steps to claim her daughter. The newcomer swallowed hard, and her gaze flitted back and forth between my sister-in-law and me.
I don't normally reveal my magic to strangers, she blew out a breath. But Jenny and Georgia told me you were good people, so I trust you.
What goes on in Honeysuckle is our business, I said, holding Caro in my gaze. We won't share what doesn't need to be said. Her shoulders relaxed.
Sorry I've been so cautious. I should know better after all the stories I've been told. You didn't deserve my distrust.
Let's get some sweet tea in you, and then I'll take you to your sister's, TJ offered. Too nervous to ask my questions, I got up from the chair. You two sit out here and enjoy my porch. I'll get the drinks. In the kitchen, I battled over whether or not I should ask about Dash. We texted on our spell phones a few times, but only traded basic information. I prepped 3 glasses with ice and pulled the pitcher of sweet tea out of the refrigerator, going back over all the scenarios in my head of what he meant when he always replied he was fine.
He misses you.
Carol's voice interrupted my thought-filled fog. Frosted fairy wings, you startled me, I exclaimed, placing a hand over my beating heart to contain it. She grabbed a towel from the oven handle and knelt down to wipe up some spilled tea. "I didn't mean to scare you. Just wanted to let you know. I'm surprised you haven't asked any of us about him." I focused on pouring the drinks. "I've been a bit busy." The half-truth barely convinced me. Carol finished and crumpled the damp fabric in her hands. "My sisters have told me about the progress with the detective. I guess he's decided to stop trying to regain his memories. That's gotta be tough on you." My pursed lips held back nothing but silence. What words could express the limbo status I found myself in? Every morning I opened my eyes to a new day. She regarded me with care. "My sisters and I discussed how much we should tell you and what was his to tell you himself. He's healthy. It turns out he's a pretty good leader, and things are getting better with his pack." I nodded, keeping my eyes trained on the floor. "His brother Davis is living on my property," she continued. "Dash visits often, and we share meals once in a while. But honestly, he doesn't say much of anything." I scoffed and took a towel from her. "He never does. Listen, I don't know what he is to you, but he's a friend, and I think he needs time to adjust to his life. And that's really all I feel comfortable in sharing. I'm sorry." Carol touched my arm in genuine sympathy. I handed her a glass to take outside. "No, I understand. We've both got spell phones we can use to communicate." I paused to consider her last statement. "And frankly, I need time too." Carol's eyes brightened. "Phew, I thought you might try to hex me or something. Sometimes my siblings hate it when I try to play big sister to everybody around me. I've got an older brother, and I totally get it." I ushered her out of the kitchen and back to the porch. "If he asks about me when you return, tell him my number hasn't changed." She laughed in approval. "Good idea, although he won't like that answer. And when will you call his number?" she challenged. Until I fulfilled what Dash told me I was going to do and saved Mason, I couldn't do more than text him. "Soon," I lied, and chose a line of deflection. "Are you and your sisters going to the Witches' Conference in Charleston?" Carol raised her eyebrow but didn't push. "No, I heard about it from a couple of the guests at the wedding, but we won't be attending." "Why not?" I asked. "You'd be more than welcome, and you can hang out with us." She shook her head as she waited for me to open the door to the porch. "Thanks, but not this time. We're in the process of repairing our lives in the mountains after the Red Ridge battle. My sisters have been inspired by Honeysuckle Hollow and have some ideas that will take time to develop. But you guys have fun hobnobbing with the hoity-toity. Definitely keep us in the loop." The bus our group rode on to go to the conference bounced underneath my seat. I stared out the window on our way to Charleston, but hardly noticed any of the scenery. My seatmate, Blythe, poked me with her finger again and again until I squirmed and swatted her away. "Cut that out," I grumbled. "No, you cut it out." My best friend leaned in so she could speak in a lower tone. "The cloud hanging over your head is going to cause rain to fall on all of us if you don't stop moping." I snorted and watched vast stretches of plowed farmland pass as we drove by. "You know I can't conjure weather magic or any kind of specialized powers for that matter." "Oh, boo-hoo, poor you. Yes, you somehow lost your tracking powers, and one of the guys you liked is obliged to get married sometime this year, while the other one had his memories of you stolen, so he no longer loves you." Blythe stopped short of listing anything else. "You know what? That's a lot to deal with. Who am I to tell you to stop being depressed?" My friend's undying support shook me out of my mood. I leaned my head onto Blythe's shoulder and rested it there. "Thanks, Bee." She stroked my hair, her touch sending ripples of comfort through me. "It's my job to be there for you, but I'll admit it's been a little tough lately. And besides, it looked like things between you and the detective weren't horrible at the reception. I saw the two of you dancing together." I leaned away from her and scanned the heads of the people sitting in front of us. Somewhere up there was Mason, so close and yet so far away. Maybe the two of...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?